Hi, my name is Robin Boydston-Parr. I am a color specialist here at Robert of Philadelphia downtown in Bayfront. I've been working here for about 21 years. Today we are actually working on our color and foil certification program. It's part of a program that we do here at Robert of Philadelphia. I, along with Jennifer and Lisa, work on our continuing education program as we hire our new associates. We bring them through the program. This past year we've been refining it a little bit and trying to get it really nailed down into a pathway to give them as much security and confidence as possible when they're taking new guests. So what we're doing today is part 1 of 2 in the color foil certification program. So today we have 7 stylists who've already been on the floor. They'll be working on 7 live models. And what we'll do is I have a whole itinerary that we've put up for today. They'll be working on their guests. They have about an hour and a half to get their foils in. Then we're going to be going through some consultation on a live model that I'll be doing around 11:30. And then we'll go on to any types of toners, glosses, conditioning treatments, and a blowout. So you'll be able to see from start to finish the befores and the afters. What we're kind of seeing today is this is different than the 6-part color program that I've done this far. So with our color education, we work on retouches on mannequin heads, then live models, foils on mannequin heads, then live models. Then we do dimensional color on mannequin heads, then live models. In that group of classes that I teach, I always give my advice during the consultation because consultation is incredibly key and we've gone over that many times. So what's a little different about the checkoff program is that during these consults, and what you'll see is that I am just listening. I am having them look at the head, do the consultation without me, and then I have them call me over and they tell me what it is they're doing and why. My job is not to correct them. My job is not to tell them what I would do, because as part of the checkoff program, this is how they learn. So when we do go over consult, one of the reasons I added one of my own live models today, which we're going to do a little later, is so that they hear my consult. They hear what I'm doing, they get to listen to it, learn from it, and then I'm going to have them all write down on a piece of paper which Wella line they would use and what formula. They're going to write it down on a piece of paper and give it to me. The point is not who's right, who's wrong. I'll put it in my back pocket, and when I do the assessment at the end of class to talk to them about how their head turned out on their live model, what it is I might have done differently, then that's what we'll discuss too, is what I did use on my color model. And then I will go over with them what it is they chose, whether it was like right on track, one of those things where you can get it more than one way, or talk about where it is their brain went and how they assessed that and where they got the formula for it and why.
Blondor,
Okay.
with the 20 bone, just to be safe and we don't do really any damage on her hair.
Okay.
And we'll go for it.
Sure. Sure.
And there will be no harsh lines.
Okay.
And she does always wear her hair up in a ponytail, so just hit her hair like you.
I want you guys to
Work your magic, kind of work
decide on your own which way you start and really think about it. I know you're standing here, but I'm just
quiet. And I appreciate the quietness of the meetup.
I have each and every one of them bring me over, and so I have actually had some of them tell me what it is they're going to do and the formula. And I can tell you I've already in my opinion, would have disagreed with a few of them, and I think they're going to learn from some of the decisions that they've made. Some are going a little too light, but that's okay. Again, this is a learning process. This is why this is part of the checkoff program. This is time-based, this is structured, this is them in a live scenario, in a salon, doing a live model. So even though I may disagree with some of what they're doing, my job, again, is not to say anything. I'm going to let them do their thing, and of course, I'll keep my eye on it and everything. I'm not going to just leave them hanging. I'm going to keep my eye on it, but this is all part of the checkoff process and why things are a little different this time. I'm going to ask you one more time. We're going to do part 2 of that. So what's your ratio between high and low?
2 to 1.
2 to 1, so 2 highs to every low. Okay. Look how far away you are already.
They were all screwed up.
And then by the time you get it on, it starts to slip a little bit. See that? Even if you had it as tight as possible, you're not close enough, and that's because I saw what you did. So watch this. You went in here, and you had this whole section. You're good. And you weaved off the top like this. Look at how much hair you're going through when you do that. So your foil got to there.
Yeah.
So we went over this, but I know it's been a long time since we did our classes.
Yeah,
So remember how I said subsection?
I do a lot of guys.
So I'm going to subsection this. All of that immediately drops, which means it's not in your way. And then you come in and weave.
I'm not doing my 16-year-old.
Now you're here.
Yeah,
I
hopefully.
want to get this out of the way.
This is like at that point, ew, I don't even want to touch it.
Like show what
And
they've
come
been
in.
doing in their recreation.
And right off the bat, look how much tighter that is.
Kid ourselves here.
Now, Bailey, can you feel a difference between the way I'm holding it and the way she was holding it?
Yeah,
What do you feel that's different?
you're pushing against me.
Covered, don't you?
Feels
Feels
tighter.
tight, yes.
That's when you come in here,
Yeah.
still holding the tension and coming down. Hi, Gail. I'm Robin. It's nice to meet you. So what are we going to do with your hair today?
We're going to get rid of the gray.
Okay. How long has it been since you've had it colored last? So it's been 9 months since you've had it colored.
Yep.
Okay. So you say the gray is what bothers you the most?
Yep.
What would you like to achieve with the color? Are you trying to completely cover the gray? Do you just want to blend the gray?
I want to get rid of it.
You want to get rid of it. So you want it completely covered. Okay. Do you want to be as close to your natural color as possible?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. And what is the consistency? In other words, what kind of maintenance are you looking for as far as color? How often do you make it into the hair salon? Exactly. How often would
Try
you,
for every 4 months.
sure, how often would you like to be in the salon?
3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months. If we can make our schedules work, that's usually what the problem is.
Right.
So typically every 3 to 4 months. So you definitely want to get rid of the gray. You're about in every 3 to 4 months, and you want to stay as close to natural as possible. So you don't want to be any darker, no lighter. So we don't necessarily want to expose any underlying pigment, correct? And she doesn't want gray blending, she wants gray coverage. So, okay. And do you feel like you stain a lot when you have color, like around the hairline?
Not too bad. No.
Not too bad? Okay. But in this scenario, because you are darker, we'll go ahead and put a little color barrier around your hairline to make sure you don't stain, and we'll go ahead and take your earrings off so those don't get caught in the shampoo bowl. So what we're going to do then is we're going to work in one of the color lines, and we're going to work on covering your gray, but also taking into account that because you're every 3 to 4 months, we don't want anything that's going to cause a harsh line. As
I'm in
it
the sun a lot.
Okay, and you're in the sun a lot. So we don't want anything to create such a line that you're married to the salon. We want it to kind of fade out. That's the rule. Ain't nobody got time for that. So we want to make sure that we have
We'd be
something.
divorced by now.
Exactly. So we want to make sure that what we do as it fades, it's going to fade naturally.
Right.
Okay, cool. I like it. So I'll go ahead and we'll get you pre-guarded. I will, guys, I'm going to go ahead and, of course, you always want to ask that. I've gotten to the point where I can kind of tell when people are going to stain, but you always want to ask, and I'm sure you guys do, but this is part of the watching my consultation versus me just advising you on yours. Got it. Okay, so what I'm going to have you guys do now while I get her pre-guarded is I'm going to have you guys write down, having heard that consultation, write down which line you would use and what your color formula is. So during this time, I want you guys, actually before I pre-guard her, I want you guys to go ahead and come up here and take a look at her hair. Yep, you can bring the level finder, absolutely. So,
Lighter, like just from the sun and over time.
Yeah, I like it a little
You like
darker.
dark. Do you want this
Because it
covered
gets
too,
light so
solid?
easily.
So you want that all the way covered then?
Yeah.
Yes.
so what were you guys debating on?
3 and I was saying 3 and 4.
I was thinking 4 or 5. Where's the ends? 5, a little bit more.
So that's a 3. You have to take into account her gray.
I would start with a 3 and 4.
I was thinking 4 or 5.
And you think 4?
Where's the ends? 5, a little bit more.
Because she said she doesn't want this.
I will tell you what I did. When she's done, I'll tell you guys what I did. And then when I finish your assessments at the end of class, I'll discuss with you guys what your thoughts were, and we'll talk about it. Uh-huh.
And I told her what you were doing. She told me what she thought. And she said, okay, tell me after you get done what she actually did.
Oh, that's funny. Did she write it down?
No, but she told me and I
Oh,
remembered
that's too
it.
cute.
It was level 4 natural with maybe a touch of ash. She wasn't sure about the ash.
Permanent, demi-permanent?
Demi.
So here's one of the things that goes with hair color. She actually levels out naturally with about a 3. So if I went in with a 3, it's kind of like painting a wall, right? So follow me. I have, well, that's kind of a grayish, dirty wall. And then I have a black. If I were to put a coat of paint on this one and a coat of paint on this one, the dark one's going to be darker and the light one's going to be lighter. So as you wash, this is going to actually wash out faster. Level on level will look darker. So I wouldn't go in with a 3 because a 3 is going to actually make it look darker. So I'm actually going to go in with, like what she said, a 4 level with some ash, but I'm actually going to add some 5 to it just so that you don't feel so harsh. Because when you've been going 9 months with salt and pepper hair and you go straight to that really dark color, you're going to feel really harsh. So by adding a little bit of that 5, I'm going to get used to, well, she's going to get used to it being darker but not so harsh. So essentially, if we can get back onto that 3 to 4 month schedule, we can take her a little darker to that 4, and again, that's 1 level above her natural. 3 on 3 makes dark, 4 on 3 makes it right on the money. So I'm gonna add a little 5 just to adjust her to the actual hair color. Because again, for 9 months, you've been staring at, especially as it grows out, all that white. So, and then again, I'm gonna keep you in a demi-permanent color. I'm gonna actually probably put you into our Color Touch Plus. And the reason I'm gonna do that is because it has the ability to cover a good amount of gray. If I go in straight with the demi, you're gonna have too much sparkling underneath. And again, I'm not gonna use permanent hair color because it's gonna give you a harsh line. You end up with a hard alkaline line. So, Wella Color Touch Plus, and I'll see what we have. 4407 with a little bit of 5507. I know that sounds warm, but in Color Touch Plus, it's not as warm as you think. It's got a nice coverage to it and gives it a nice finish. It's gonna be nice and shiny. It's gonna blend really well. And I'm gonna go in with 4% because that's what you want for your best gray coverage in a demi-permanent line. Always put the developer in first. And people say, why would I put the developer in first? Well, by putting the developer in first and the color in afterwards, it allows it to mix more thoroughly without getting pockets of developer. So sometimes I'll have someone say, well, my client says their head's burning or it's feeling itchy or it's irritating right when you put it on. Well, sometimes it can just happen and it kind of cools off. But a lot of times if it's not whisked well and it's not mixed up well enough, what you're actually getting is more of a chemical burn from the peroxide, from the developer. So by putting it in first, it allows you to actually get a nice smooth mixture without getting those pockets of developer. And any of you colorists out there, if you've ever been filling or refilling a developer bottle and you accidentally touch it, well, in a few minutes, it starts to turn a little white and it starts to sting a little bit. So think about what it feels like on the head if you haven't gotten all the developer mixed up. It's going to do the exact same thing.
I don't know what you're thinking.
That's what I was saying, like, just like old hair color used to make your hair so punchy and gross.
Yeah.
We changed it so much, it's nice now.
I get very particular about the roll. I like to roll it to the outside so that the number is always sticking out. It's one of those pet peeves I have. And there's little things too that like drives me nuts. If you don't, like, so say for instance it's a new tube. If I'm going to open this, I'm going to actually give it a little pinch right there. And then I come out, then I hit it. So what that allows it to do is it allows it to oxidize less. So if you pinch that a little bit, it doesn't come spewing out. Yeah, it stays where it needs to stay and then you roll it out.
Good idea.
Very good idea. Small things, it's the small things. Little things like this preserve as a business owner because you don't waste. All right, so I've added a little bit of Stroke 68 to it. It's a special mix. So this is actually a violet blue. So it's any number right past the slash is your predominant color. And choose between 2 to 3 parts of the first tonality to 1 part of the second tonality. So I'm adding a little bit of that just to soften it. And I love the handy dandy whisk. So I'm just going to kind of get some of this off the side first. Then I go straight down and softly whisk. And see how the developer is actually coating the outside? It's going to allow everything to just mix, mix, mix a lot easier and avoids all pockets. Kind of like a cake batter, even though I'm not the best baker. I can do a pretty mean brownie, but after that, it's nothing. And yes, it's from a box. Comes to color, being clean not only makes it easier in the end, but being clean is part of being a professional. So the last thing you want to do is end up with splattering color everywhere, messy application. So I always like to, as soon as I get the color on, see where I might have left anything and clean it up. Everyone's got their own favorite color removers. We use a few. So we're going to let this process for about 30 minutes. I was just possibly thinking if I had of putting you under heat, but I'm not going to do that because heat is an extra alkaline source. Therefore, I don't necessarily want to push that to expose any more underlying pigment. So we're going to actually just let you air process for about 30 minutes or so, and I'll check you. Okay, sound good? Sounds good. All right, you want anything else to drink while you're waiting?
No, I got my
Good?
water.
Okay, cool. So over here we have Javier, Tone, and Claire. So they're kind of at the point in the process where some might be adding a few more highlights. Some people did a bleach wash and tone. He's doing a bit of a toner because she likes a cooler finish. So he decided he wanted to use a color that's Wella Illumina 10 stroke 69. So that's a 10 level violet, soft violet. So his question to me was, what do you think about that as a toner? Which is beautiful, but it's also part of a permanent hair color line. So in using that, what happens when you put that on someone with virgin hair and highlights is it shifts the base. It's in the color world, we call it shifting the base, because toning with the permanent hair color will also lighten the natural hair in between. So instead of using a 1.9 or 6th volume with it, since it's permanent, I had him go in with one part of our pastel developer, which utilizes a little bit of phosphoric acid. Now, phosphoric acid is found in all developers, but it's a higher content in our pastel developer. So it helps eat away some of that ammonia. And then one part of our post-service. So post-service is part of the pH balance program of the Wella color. So a lot of times we finish with post-service. So by utilizing that in there, it's going to minimize the shifting of the base and clearly use it to tone. So again, when you tone with permanent color, it has the ability and will shift virgin hair color. However, the pigment is a little bit stronger. So people really like to tone with permanent hair color. So that's why you think about utilizing your post-service to add a little bit more acidity and more conditioning. And the pastel developer to help remove some of the ammonia. That way it doesn't shift as much. So in hair like hers, because she has so much of it and she has got the tinsel in it, a lot of times I will shampoo, towel dry, and then I would actually use blondor sealant care.
Okay.
And let this sit for about 5 minutes, and then rinse really well, condition, and take a little bit of a wet brush through it, and then tone.
And then so? Okay.
And then tone. It'll actually even out the porosity, balance the pH, so it actually takes the toner better, but also it keeps you from having this in the bowl. Learning moment. Learning moment. That's that fun. And if you need to mix some more. Okay, so we're kind of wrapping up class today. People are working on either toners or blow dries. A lot of times when you do finish, and what I noticed today is after finishing your foils and washing them out, a lot of what people are missing is a pH balance product. In Wella, we use something called Wella Blondor Sealant Care. We usually let that sit for about 5 minutes, rinse, and then tone. It's that part that helps balance the pH. It allows the toners or glosses, glazes, they're very interchangeable, but it allows the toners to actually take a little bit better. One of the biggest things I've noticed today was neat, tight foils. That needs a little work, so we'll address that in part 2 of this certification program. Certainly as I went around and started throwing in some foils on the clients when I was seeing people get a little loose, what I noticed is that the clients, when I told them, you know, how does this feel compared to how it felt when the stylist that's in the certification program is holding it, and a lot of them said, wow, it feels a lot tighter and a lot stronger the way you're holding it. So biggest takeaways that I found on the students today was a lot of them aren't subsectioning, the foils aren't getting tight enough, and so we're having a little bit of a gap between the actual highlight and the regrowth. Sectioning, of course, went through that. As they go today, what I'll be doing is I'll be discussing with them the formula they came up with for the client that I did, and assessing that, as well as giving them my feedback. Some may have to do with consultations, some with foils, some with toning ideas, and the actual outcome, whether you tone with permanent hair color, semi-permanent hair color. Any parting thoughts today? I think that the biggest thing that I came away with is that we have 3 salons, and I noticed the stylists from each salon have different habits. So not that they're wrong, not that they're right, but I was able to really take that away as their educator and as the educator of our advanced color program and our color and foil certification class, that I will need to adapt myself a little bit to even just the things like the size of combs, the way they hold their foils, but at the same time, the best thing that I can give them is making sure that their sectioning and their parting and their foils are as tight and close as possible, because no matter what, that's what the client is going to ask for, and that's what the client needs to walk away with every time.